Game number 3 for the Auburn Tigers is at hand. Auburn versus New Mexico, not New Mexico State, Alabama fans, New Mexico for homecoming. We are going to talk about it. Predictions and preview are what we're going to take into account in this live stream. Scores, but so much more. Jump in and get interactive with us. Let's talk about this prediction show right now. War Eagle, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live. We appreciate you so much for joining in, hanging out with us, spending some time being a part of our little family within the Auburn family. As is typically the case, we'd love to get together on Thursday evenings during football season to do a little bit of a preview and prediction show. Yes, we will predict the final score by the end of this video, but hold on to your horses here. Don't share yours just yet, especially of those of you that are watching the live portion of the show. We're going to get there. We're going to work through this together. So what do we have on tap for you tonight? Obviously, as I said, the preview and prediction show for Auburn versus New Mexico homecoming coming up next, game 3 of 2024 for Auburn football. We're going to give you a little information about the game, the matchup, things maybe to know about within that. We'll look at depth charts. We'll look at some of the other roster things to consider. And then we're going to go into a series of questions we're going to have interaction with you all to better understand what may or may not happen in this particular game, leading to us all together sharing and coming up with our final scores prediction for this next game. All that's at hand, you guys can help us get started by making sure you smash the like button if you enjoy this type of content. It is a huge help to us. Lets people know that we're live, all that good stuff. You can also let us know you're here. Some of you have already done that by shouting out where you're from, things like that with War Eagles. We appreciate that so much to those of you that are able to be here so often, so early, and ready to go for our streams each and every time that we do them. So thank you so much for doing that. Obviously, as we do the first part of this show, you can feel free to give some comments and stuff, and we'll address those as we feel that they're appropriate. But once we get through the informational part of the show, we're going to get heavy into the interactivity. So go ahead and get yourselves prepared for that, for typing in the chat, especially live. For those of you on the replay, you could participate. It just won't have the same effect. You won't really have it factored in live here. But at the end, if we have some time, we will certainly do a Q&A portion of the show as well. So a lot of good things for you in the next 45 minutes to an hour. So let's get into it right now. What we're going to do to start off the show is I'm going to pull myself back out as we get things ready to show you here on the screen. What we like to do to start off each and every preview is to talk a little bit about some information about the game. Some of it may not even really be that important to the overall score of the matchup, but just important things of context to keep in mind, to know a little bit, because we think that they're important. So here you go. We got this set up a little bit better than we did last time with me now looking the correct direction, because my extra monitor is over here to my right, but I used to look that way essentially on the screen, the way that I had it set up. Y'all don't really care about that, but I do. So congratulations to me for putting that actually out there. Real quick reminder, Stam is addressing that we played yesterday an old homecoming video put together by War Eagle Productions. And as I suspected, I ran the risk of it getting flagged by YouTube, and it did. So we can't do that again. I loved it so much. I was like, if this doesn't get flagged, I may run this as our intro to Auburn Family Night forever. Can't do it. It's not the Auburn Productions part of it that got flagged. It was the song in it by Lady Antebellum, the Compass thing. Stop the censorship. Yeah, but they got to make money too, so it's all part of it. All right, so let's jump into these things. You guys can drop comments and stuff. We'll address them a little later as they come up. Let's talk about this. You can look to whatever side it is for you. I think it's your left of the screen. And talk a little bit with me about all of the different things that we have to talk about in this stream about this particular matchup. I've highlighted a few of those things so that you can have some things to reference. Of course, we know the game is going to be at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, ESPN2, Auburn, Alabama, Jordan-Hare Stadium. Let me stress this to you folks. If you can get to this game, and keep in mind too, the weather is just either going to be atrocious or just up in the air. Well, the weather's all the way up in the air. Dun-dun-dun. Um, you know, I have no clue how this is going to go. There's been times where it looks just completely bleak, like everything's going to be washed out, all the festivities beforehand and all that. And now maybe it'll lighten up before we can get there, but just keep that in mind. But I say that as a word of warning for this game if you're coming, but also this is your only guaranteed night game for the rest of the season. So if you're wanting to see the light show, if you're wanting to experience that part of it, the atmosphere, this is your last opportunity guaranteed, unless I'm missing something. See Auburn play at night in Jordan-Hare. Now, will they likely play again? I would suspect so. The next two games will be midday games, those being the last two of the homestand. Then we'll be gone for the month of October. Again, a travesty in and of itself. Gone for the month of October. And then when we get back, we will have midday games versus Vanderbilt and La Mo, which only leaves Texas A&M. You better hope we get that as a night game because this could be your last one of the year, which is just it's a weird scheduling year. All right, 6:30 p.m. Central Time, ESPN2. Less complaining about the TV and all that stuff. We highlighted that this is the series first meeting. We're checking another one off the box. If you follow our friend Clint Richardson, you know that he's chronicled this of the list of Auburn opponents that they have yet to face. We will check another one off the list. We did UMass last year. Cal last year, and again this year. But we're finally knocking off New Mexico on here, which really is weird because I thought we had played New Mexico. Yes, Alabama fans, New Mexico State. Them previously. I could have sworn that it was going to be on the record somewhere there, but it's the first meeting overall. As you can see, both seasons so far for both teams haven't been absolutely outstanding. They have no wins, although they have put up some points, and we have one win and one loss. Overall records at home for the particular person. So this is a brand new Bronco Mendenhall, which is a name I know. Where did he come from? But he is 0-2 to start off his tenure as the New Mexico State Lobos team coach. So there you go, the matchup with the two head coaches. A couple other notes for the game. This is the Navy game. Obviously, I'm not dressed appropriately for the show tonight, but wear Navy to the game shouldn't be a problem for the majority of you. We will also be honoring, amongst all of that, the homecoming court and the 2024 SEC champion equestrian team. Six in a row, I think they are. So another great honor as well. Let's look at some facts about homecoming. Auburn is 85-8-4. When playing homecoming games. You wish that was 100%. Thankfully, it hasn't happened in our time yet. But since the first game they played for homecoming in 1924 at the old Drake Field, and they've won the last 32 home games. Wow, that's knock on wood, everybody. Knock on wood. Beating Sanford 45-13. And New Mexico State, obviously, with the first time facing Auburn, now means that they will have faced 91 of the current 133 FBS teams. And I don't think we're ever going to be able to match that number just because they add some every year, it seems like. So it's just getting more and more and more and more and more and more difficult. Auburn has beaten all of them. Is beaten 84 of those 91 teams that they have played thus far. You can read some more about it there. 6-0 versus the Mountain West, or the current members of the Mountain West. So that obviously bodes well for Auburn. And final notes here. Just keep in mind about the homecoming parade being at 6 p.m. downtown Auburn, followed by a pep rally and a concert too. So lots of good things to get involved if the weather cooperates for this weekend, which looks a little dicey. And then Auburn is currently tied 8th nationally and tied for second in the SEC with 19 tackles for loss this season so far. So after a week where everything was just abysmal, everything was falling apart. Oh, the sky is falling again. You will find that Auburn is doing something well. Tackles for loss, as we talked about, the defense really showed up at the end of the game, or the second half of the last game. So something to keep in mind, something to be a little bit more positive about. Actually, I started to pull away from there. I think we wanted to show you this. Yeah, we'll just bring this up. There's not much to talk about in it, but you'll see in slide number 2 is your depth chart. There we go. I already know where this is heading. But I always want to bring it up so you can see nothing's really changed as far as I can tell. And this is something that they put out earlier in the week. So if there were going to be any changes made, it wouldn't be reflected probably on this at that time. But just a reminder for those of you that are curious about who is playing where, who's expected to wake. For instance, Isaiah Miller, I believe, called Too Tall, is still injured, and I don't know if he's going to play, but that's something to keep in mind. Cam Coleman also had a little bit dinged up a little bit in the last game. So some things with the depth chart to keep in mind and reflect as we go into the game. What colors are, and I don't have the color list in front of me for the Oklahoma game. It's a great question, but we'll talk about it on another show. I don't have that information handy for you tonight. We're focusing on New Mexico and homecoming right now. Okay, last thing that I want to bring forward to you all's attention after we've looked at this depth chart, let's look at New Mexico. A little bit of information about them. There wasn't a lot of good stuff out there. In fact, we usually get an email from the athletic department, unless I missed it, a little bit sooner in the weekends, which tells me they didn't have a lot of information to offer. But what I have on here for you all, there's some more information there for you if you want it. This is from their media guide, which you can for this game, which you can find on their website. But at least right there in the center part of it is some information about starters and people who've been around for a while, experience that are returning for this year. So just very briefly looking at that, they've got 11 offensive starters. No, that's actually versus lost and all that kind of stuff. So that does look a little bit confusing now that I'm looking at it. But just some information for you guys to have to kind of see how it breaks down for them offensively and defensively on the roster, what kind of experience that they have, specialist, and where they're getting like their transfer from. They got 28 transfers in from Division I level, 2 from divisions below that, 12 JC transfers, and 17 incoming freshmen. So a lot of new faces for them across the board and a new scheme. So you can understand where they might have some deficiencies, and it might play well for Auburn eventually in the end. Okay, let's do this. I want to pull out of this for just a second and get you guys ready to see what we want to talk about next. And that is going to be our good ESPN matchups. Keep in mind, if you're worried about what New Mexico State did last, we'll talk about that in just a second. But we want to go ahead and bring this up and to your attention. I'll pull myself down a little bit for you to see there. Again, we're on ESPN, so I cannot vouch for ads. It's not necessarily endorsement of everything that we are and what we represent, but it is what we're using today, ESPN's guide to the game. We've got the game time already. We've talked about that in the records. The line is currently at this time, and I believe that'll change going up to the game, set at 28 in Auburn's favor. So we'll keep that in mind as we go into the interactive part of our show and talk a little bit about what may or may not happen in this game. You can see the passing leaders. You can see the rushing leaders and receiving leaders. Dampier is definitely a name that continues to pop up for them, their quarterback and rushing attack guy. So he's obviously a guy that we need to key off of in this game. Winsong is their leading receiver with 14 receptions, 224 yards, and 1 touchdown. Jarquez and Dampier have very similar rushing stats. He's got a few more touchdowns, but just overall, I found that intriguing that the quarterback and our starting running back have the same. You can see the last couple of games for each team. Auburn, obviously, with the great A&M win, the loss with Cal, and then they have struggled in terms of getting wins, but they have been able to put up points, losing to Montana State, who I believe still are pretty much a power at the FCS level. But Arizona, who was number 21 when they played them, they did lose by a significant margin, but they also put up a good amount of points. I would imagine, yeah, that was at Arizona too. So obviously playing on the road to some extent isn't that big of an issue for them at that particular venue. Will it change at Auburn under the lights? I don't know. That's why we play the game. Right now, the matchup predictor is set for 93%, almost 94. Auburn favored to win that. I wonder what this would have been had Auburn won versus Cal. It probably would have been 99%, I bet. But there you go. That's some of the information there. We also, I'm going to switch over here a little bit and go to the Lobos page. So again, whatever in ads and stuff that you see here, just ignore them for the time being. We can look at players, stats, and all that kind of stuff, but I'm more interested in looking at team so that we can have some better conversations about our score predictions. Just a few more things, and then we'll get into that portion of the show. All right, total points per game for New Mexico, 44 points per game, total of 88. And they have gotten 12 touchdowns as well. You can kind of look through here as I scroll through a little bit slowly for y'all and find if there's anything interesting that pops out to you. Let us know in the chat about what they do or don't do. Fourth down percentage is 100%, 2 for 2 at this time. So not bad, not bad. 432 net passing yards thus far this season, 42 of 68. 6.4 per pass. So that averages out to net passing yards per game, 216. 216 passing yards per game. And if you look at the rushing attack there as well, they're going to have around 181 rushing yards per game. Those are going to be important conversation pieces for when we move into the predictions portion of this show. A couple more things that you could probably look at. We're not going to dive into a bunch of these things here. Penalties may be a good thing to look at. They have 12 so far. For 95 yards, they're averaging about 47 yards on penalties a game, meaning that's how much they're giving up. So another piece of information to keep in mind. 1 fumble this season and 1 lost, and 1 turnover ratio right there. Something to keep in mind. Let's go back to interceptions if that's in there. Interceptions, 2 interceptions on the season for their quarterback. All right. So I think that's going to do it for all the information portion of this matchup. We have talked about the storylines around it, this being homecoming, all that kind of stuff, and some statistics around this first ever matchup with New Mexico State. Looked a little bit at the depth charts for both, or the depth chart for us, and some roster conversations for them. But you kind of saw some of their rushing and their passing leaders for them, and then definitely some of the matchup stuff. So you got everything that you should need to make a decent guess at what will be likely, as I'm a little out of practice with my switching over here, what will likely be a good prediction to make about this particular matchup in certain areas. So let's do that, and let's get started. I did this last week as kind of a getting you used to doing things, getting you geared up. In the chat right now, what I would love for you to do is answer this question. I guess it would be a yes or an over or under. The line is set at 28 in Auburn's favor, meaning they would win by 28 points. Will Auburn go over or under that? Will you take the over or the under on that? This is not your score prediction yet. Hold on to that. This is just getting everything warmed up. But will you take the over or the under on that particular score? Devin War Eagle, thanks for being here tonight. Appreciate that. Let's see. Some of you are saying some things already. We got under, over, under. So back and forth, mixed opinions thus far. WT getting here just in time for our interactive part of the show. Just getting started with that. I'm actually going to take the under on this. I'm going to be a little bit, I don't know if bullish is the word. Cole, what's going on? Cole, you got to pick one. Don't be that guy. I know Cole. I know Cole really well. Cole, don't be that guy. You got to pick one, over or under. Over or under. There's always going to be a fly in the ointment in these interactive shows, and Cole would be that guy for me. I'm going to take the under. I think there's requires a healthy amount of skepticism about this team right now, given the volatility of one performance compared to another. Not that I don't think we won't have a significant margin of victory, but I don't know that I'm comfortable right now saying that we will win by 28 points. Is that too harsh? I don't know, but that's just me. WT with a very fair point. I would take the under because Austin will be there. If I don't know this Cole, then that looks oddly like the Cole that I know. But anyway, he says the over. That is the Cole I know. 313 says, I feel like the offense is going to bounce back and the defense are going to shut them down. And I love that optimism. And that's where I want to be. And I'm probably going to get there by game time, but I'm a little bit where I'm sitting right now in our conversation, a little bit worried about everything. All right, so let's start doing this. We've got to go through offense. We got to go through defense and special teams. I've added a couple of requests from last week especially our Conquer Club people. Excuse me. So we'll do those, but let's go ahead and jump it in. We're right at 20 minutes is usually where we like to get things started anyway. All right, so offense, this is your first question. Type only this in the chat. I want to know how many passing yards and how many touchdowns passing touchdowns do you predict for Auburn? Passing yards and passing touchdowns for Auburn. I don't need interceptions with this. I don't need anything else. We'll get there. I need passing yards and passing touchdowns for Auburn in this game versus New Mexico. Let me know what you think. Probably should have looked a little bit closer at what they were giving up on defense. You know what? Kyle left it up for himself. So I'll see if I can find some of that for you here as defense. It's not really showing me any defense, which is very unfortunate. Why is it not showing me defense? Anyway. Oh well. I might go to their home and see if anything like that, and then we'll look and see what you guys are saying. Here we go. I found it. I knew it was somewhere. That's their passing yards still and their rushing yards. Not there. I need points for and points against, full team stats. That's not going to help us any. All right, let's see what you guys are saying, and we'll focus on that a little bit. All right, these are your predictions for passing yards and passing touchdowns. 138, 2, 315, and 4 touchdowns, making up for last week. 253 touchdowns. Bryant War Eagle, good to see you. There you go. Devin's got 203 touchdowns. Looks like the majority of everybody is at least somewhat optimistic about the passing game coming into this week. And we'll see if he is locked in for this week. He definitely needs to be to shut up a very annoying, loud, and overly emotional sect of our fan base. Yeah, and I said that. Doesn't mean you can't have criticism of them, but they are loud and they are annoying and they're very... Some of them, no, I just need to leave it alone. All right, let's move on to the next one. And this is, somebody already mentioned it, this is probably the area where you're most interested in. This is probably what people want to see. How many rushing yards and rushing touchdowns will Auburn's offense have in this game? How many rushing yards and how many rushing touchdowns will Auburn have in this game? I don't think I gave my predictions for passing. I will say 195 and two passing touchdowns. 195 and 2 passing touchdowns is where I'm going to go with that. What do y'all think? Dalton wants it more run heavy. With the weather, it'll be hard to pass. That's a great point as well. So consider, this is why we talk about all angles of the game before we get into these things. Because some of y'all saying, what does it matter that it's homecoming? Well, I mean, sometimes you can see the history of it and see what it means. Sorry, things started switching on me there. All right, so here are some of y'all's predictions. Cole, very bullish on that. Looks like he loves and wants to see that a little bit. Rodney, I did see that this is you and not Wendy, but it's going to throw me off the entire show. I'll give a second for anybody else that wants to get their predictions in that's watching about rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. I do as well believe that we are going to get a more active, more productive run game, especially as some of you brought up about the weather, that playing a factor into this. I will say 220 and 3 rushing touchdowns. 3 rushing touchdowns. We got a 350 and 4 touchdowns there. All right, so there's your predictions. I see a couple of y'all's questions. If they're not related to what we're talking about, I mean, I know it's somewhat related, but we'll come back to those in a little bit. I'm trying to star those as I see them. We'll do that in the Q&A portion of the show. All right, let's keep moving here. This is a question about the offense still in the offense. How many sacks will Auburn, offensive line especially, allow? How many sacks will Auburn allow in the game? Meaning, how many times will Peyton, Hank, whoever is that quarterback throughout the game get sacked? Oh boy. If you watched the game last week, you will see that this is something that needs to be very, very heavily thought about. It is New Mexico. It is a different opponent. It is a different caliber opponent than what we just played. But I would say I'm very concerned about that one. I hope that they take care of business like they're capable of in the sack column. 3 at most. So we've got nothing higher than 3 and 4 thus far. I get the feeling, and what my hope and belief is that this team is going to do what they're supposed to do, just like they did against A&M, and get out ahead of this team. We're going to put some people in that need some more time, thus some more offensive linemen that need some more time and some more reps. Thus means they're not as experienced, or there's a reason they're on the second string. So I think you will allow a few more sacks technically in this game. So I'm going to say 4. I think 2 of those will be on our starter, Peyton Thorne, as it stands right now, and probably will be. Some of y'all need to prepare yourselves for that. So I'm going to say 2 of those are going to be against the starter, Peyton Thorne, and the other 2 will be outside of that in the time that we're playing. So no sacks. Not very many people had a blindside sack the way things are going. And keep in mind too, if you ever find that if you're getting a little bit behind in the stream, we do have to run ads on these things because we've got to make a living here. So it does put you behind in the chat. If you ever catch one of those ads, you might want to just refresh so you catch up so that your comments or your answers don't get too far behind in things. Not too many opinions though on the sacks allowed. All right. Next question for the offense. How many turnovers in this game, cue the Peyton Thorne Bluebirds, will Auburn have? This is interceptions. This is fumbles. You can break that down if you need to for me, but I'm really just wondering at the bare minimum, how many turnovers will Auburn have in this game? We had 2 in the first game. We had 5 in the second game. Probably going to be somewhere in the middle of that, in my opinion. I think Dalton was answering the second question since we didn't have like a big gap there. So there you go. If it's raining, keep in mind, it doesn't really matter if it's raining. If it's just damp out there and that ball gets a little slick, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to do so. I think we will have a fumble. But I'm going to say we don't lose it. So it's just a fumble and not a fumble lost, but just a fumble, a forced fumble, I guess. I think the ball will be slick enough to have that happen in this game at the bare minimum. I do think there will be at least 1 interception. I just think that that's likely because either Peyton's going to have a great day and everybody else is going to get back out there and sling it around. And that's just a higher likelihood to happen when your backups are in, or Peyton's going to throw an interception. So I think it's one of the 2 options and either presents a likely opportunity for an interception. So I'll say 2 turnovers. One of those will be an interception and excuse me, we'll have 1 turnover. One of those is an interception, but I'll have 1 forced fumble that does not get recovered by the defense. So there you go. All right. For the offense still, who is going to be your top rusher for this particular game? Who is it going to be? Who do you got? I know this question feels very easy, and typically it is, but some of you said maybe run Peyton Thorne a little bit more. Maybe that's what you need to do. Maybe he's the leading rusher, and he can move. He's very fleet of foot. Will it be Damari? Will it be Jeremiah? I think if we're sitting at a game one against Alabama A&M, this is very much up in the air. But I think the answer for the most part in this one is going to be pretty obvious. Jarquez Hunter. I think he's itching. I think the team needs it. The fan base needs to something that's got some stability to it. And I think the run game, when done well and the ball is hung onto Jarquez, provides a lot of that. So hopefully what we're talking about in this game is a big, big day for Jarquez Hunter. I think I said 3 rushing touchdowns. It would make me so happy if all 3 were him. Excuse me. I didn't realize I was that tired. All right. Who is the top receiver going to be for Auburn in this game? Who is going to be the top receiver for Auburn in this game? Give me one name. One name. Who is it going to be? Again, I don't know if Cam Coleman is going to play or not. That will factor into that, but that's something to keep in mind. Maybe he does play. I don't know. My guess, if I'm head coach and I saw that one of my star players just got a little bit dinged up only in game 2, I'm not playing him unless I have to. So that's the way that I would choose to think about it. Who will be, I knew Neil was going to do that. Give me your legitimate answer, Neil. Give me your legitimate answer in this game for your top receiver. Who is going to be the top receiver? We got Lambert Smith. Oops, bounce forward here a bit. What's going on, Silas? Lambert Smith. A lot of Lambert Smiths. He has proven to be the most consistent. 2 touchdowns and 2 touchdowns in each of his game. Dalton wants Simmons. If Cam Coleman is out, it is going to provide opportunities for some other people. Is it Simmons? I think Perry may get some more time, but your options are Lambert Smith, Caleb Burton, Robert Lewis. I'd really love to see Robert Lewis get going, but it hasn't really happened or taken effect yet. So we'll see how that shakes out. Some more Lambert Smiths all across the way. Look at that. That's probably what 90% KLSs. You're probably all right because let me just say this. In a world where there's been inconsistency a lot of places, isn't it nice to see a transfer wide receiver come in and be pretty active from the get-go? That's pretty awesome. A couple others. We were asking, remember, just one. Got to pick one in our thing. So look, one. He's just saying they need way more staffs, though. I need one prediction. All right, this is our final one in the offense we're going to do tonight. Your final offensive prediction. This is one that was requested to be added this week. What will be Auburn's 3rd down percentage? Again, we're doing this on a trial run. If we don't like predicting this one, we don't have to keep doing it. But what will be Auburn's 3rd down percentage in this game? Their offense, obviously. I am seeing if I can find that for you all real quick on what our current one is while you're thinking about it. Hopefully it would be very good. 3rd down percentage currently is 56.25. 56.25. It's kind of low. It's really low. But a lot of you are way more, most except for Neil, are more confident than the percentage says. Silas is down there a little bit. I'll say 3rd down percentage, just because, again, I'm expecting us to take care of business against a type of team like this. So I do think we will probably be on the lower end of the closer to that average, just because we're playing people that need time towards the end of the game. You're usually going to have more stalled out drives because of that. So I'm going to say the percentage will be 65 percentage. 65. Is that fair? All right. Well, that was a good request. I forget who to attribute that one to thank them for adding it, but looks like a lot of you have some takes on it. So we'll keep adding that one in here. All right, let's move on to defense. We've talked about the offense a little bit. Let's start at the top. This is defense predictions now. How many passing yards will Auburn allow to New Mexico? How many yards and touchdowns passing wise? Only passing, touchdowns and passing yards for these particular guys. Based on trying to jog my memory, seemed like they were a little bit more proficient, maybe not a giant amount, but in passing. So something to keep in mind with this. Neil says 148, so no touchdowns, I guess, for Neil. Just 148 yards. 225 and 3. 105. There you go. 206 and 2. Keep them coming if you haven't done it. 110 and 1 touchdown. Look at that. Bryant says nothing. Absolutely nothing. Here's the thing. If our defense gets after this offensive line the way they did in the second half versus the Cal game, I think that we are going to have a very good day in this category. The key is going to be getting from what we know currently to that defensive back group that's lost a ton of talent and still finding its legs and its way. And it's probably rotation still a little bit. So I do think that I'm pretty high on our pass rush right now. So I wouldn't say their passing yards wouldn't be any more than 175 and 1 touchdown. 175 and 1 touchdown. Not as low as like Bryant had it, to not as high as some of you guys have it. And you know, it's probably a modest day for somebody coming on the road to Jordan-Hare. All right, next part. How many rushing yards and rushing touchdowns will Auburn have? Will Auburn allow to New Mexico? How many rushing yards and rushing touchdowns? Looks like their quarterback is the guy that you want to watch here. So that's going to be the ticket here, is if we come rushing at this guy, will he get loose from us? You want to go after him no matter what, but that's where their rushing attack has come from. He's got just comparable results to Jarquez so far this season. Not that that's like an amazing thing, but I think he's probably going to be their leading rusher. Most likely, at least. That'd be my guess. A few of you guys here. Very, very happy people. Bryant, good to see you. Thanks for being here, buddy. Thanks for hanging out as long as you could. All right. I said 175. I'll say 105 on rushing yardage by the end of the game. And 1 touchdown, 1 rushing touchdown. So there you go. That's what I've got for the rushing attack of the defense. All right, next defensive question for you all to give me your predictions on. Who will be Auburn's top tackler in this game? Who will be Auburn's top tackler in the game? I believe in game 1 it was Jalen McLeod, which is like a duh, right? But we've seen a lot of people get really involved, especially in the second half of the last game. Who do you think Auburn's leading tackler is going to be for this game? You got a mobile quarterback. So think about that in terms of matchups. Who's going to be probably watching, spying on the particular quarterback to keep him from getting loose? Is it just as simple as we're going to get after him from the front 4 or front 3 and do that? But who is going to be the leading tackler for Auburn in this game? A couple of predictions already coming in with some likely candidates. I think everybody is usually thinking Asante here, but Asante is yet to be the leading tackler, which is not a critique. Not everybody is going to be the leading tackler, but you just want to know that when they come in, they contribute something. And Asante certainly does that. I'll tell you this, in college football 25, Asante is a beast. Seen probably like, I don't know, getting close to 10 interceptions, about half of those for touchdowns in games I've played or seen played with him. Rodney, thank you for hanging out with us tonight. Keldrick Falk. So it seems like our two most likely candidates are Keldrick Falk and are going to be Asante. I will say if Keys is healthy and plays the whole game, which I hope will only be into the first series or so of the second half, I'll say Austin Keys. I think we're ready to have him have a big day as the outside linebacker. So I'm going to say Austin Keys. Maybe just for the sake of a little bit of variance. All right, defense. How many? And this is we've got. We're going to have another question after this in relation to defensive touchdowns, but this is one of those where we combine a bunch of things, answer it however you want to, but just save the touchdowns part of it. But how many sacks, fumbles, interceptions will Auburn defense have against New Mexico? I'm asking for it all in one, just for reasons, because we found last year when we just went slowly with these at a time, we kind of bored people a little bit. So we want sacks, fumbles, interceptions, those big, huge plays that are going to be altering. If you want to answer it like numbers wise, like Stan did in that order, that's a great way to do it. I'll know which order you put it in. Sacks, fumbles, interceptions in this game. And I guess we're all assuming fumbles, meaning the ones that we recover. 4 sacks, 1-1, 3 sacks. Keep in mind that Auburn is tied for 8th in the nation in tackles for loss. I know that can factor into this a little bit. And 2nd in the SEC for tackles for loss, if that helps you for some context in all of this. Okay, some of y'all's predictions coming in. I feel like Auburn's going to get 4 sacks, 1 interception, and take it a step further. I think they caused 2 fumbles and recover 1. So I'm very similar to Stan earlier. But I feel like we're going to get after them a little bit and do well in our tackles for loss category as well, too. All right, this is an addition for the defense, I think is what we had this time. Yes, coming from requests from last time. How many defensive touchdowns will Auburn have in this game? And this may be a simple answer of 0. What do you think they're good for versus a team like New Mexico? Their quarterback has thrown 2 interceptions. I think 4 touchdowns, so he's a 50-50 ratio on that. I think they have had 1 fumble and lost it. So it's not like they've, been absolutely careless with the ball, but they're clearly susceptible. Will it be enough under the lights with the wet conditions? I think that's something that we all need to remember here. Not a lot of hope for one of those defensive touchdowns. Some WT has got 0, but 1 will be close. So are we talking like similar? I know it's special teams to the Keontae Scott punt return where they step out of bounds. Is that what we're feeling right there? Does Auburn have a turnover at all? I believe so. Think so. Didn't they recover a fumble? I could be wrong. It's a good question. I don't know. We'll see. I'll star that and come back to that. Maybe somebody will know it. Kind of making me question it now. All right. So that is our defensive stats. We got a few more special teams, and we're sitting right at kind of where we want to be at. So let's work through these, and we're going to get to our final score prediction. I'm still working it in my head right here. Final score prediction soon, but right now, special teams. How many punts will Auburn have in this game? How many punts will Auburn have in this game? Dalton, I'm very confused by this. Did I miss like a ad was it an ad from them that popped up? I would love for them to be an official sponsor, by the way. How many punts in this game? Keep in mind, ideally, we're talking about this is a game where you have put this team away and where you're going to take care of business. Um, I I would wonder, you would probably punt a few more times if that happens. So we got a very heavy prediction there, like 6. I think we're going to see a total of 4 punts, and 3 of those will be the 3 punts in time with backups in. It's the same one every time for you. That's hilarious. 4 punts. All right, so there you go. There's everybody perspectives on the punting game. All right. How many field goals attempted and made for Auburn in this game? We've got 2 more categories on this. I know it's kind of getting towards the end here. Everybody's ready for the score predictions. Just hang in there. How many field goals attempted and made by Auburn in this game? Towns Magoo has now missed one, so not to say that it's going to rock his confidence, and I'm assuming that he's still going to be the starter because we haven't heard any major updates on Alex McPherson yet. So got a guy that's not 100%, but still doing a pretty bang up job given he's just been thrust in there. So let's see what you all think about. Neil just says 3. Which was that 3 made? There you go. There it is. I found it. 2 for 2. Man, we have a heavy Zaxby's ad thing. I wish I could pick those because I would pick Zaxby's every time. Y'all see it. I wish I could have them as a sponsor. Okay. So looks like everybody feels that we're going to have at least one and that we're going to be 100% on the day. I would feel very confident about that too. I don't know that we're going to find ourselves in a position where it's going to be having to do super difficult ones, nor do I think that Coach Hugh Freeze wants to put Towns Magoo in that position again. So I'll say we make 2 field goals, attempt 2 and make 2. This will be my prediction. This can be a yes or a no, or you can give me the number of them if you think it is going to be more. Any punt or kick returns for a touchdown? Or do you think that we're going to have average starting point of that on the field better than normal? Anybody, yes or no, or just 0, however you want to answer that. What do you think? I feel like we're due for one. I feel like we're due for one. Is it going to be in this game? I don't know, and I don't feel super confident about that. Zilch. There you go. So most of you do not feel super confident about that. One special teams. Oh, we got a prediction. They are due. It's kind of how I feel, but I don't know if it'll be in this game. So I guess I'll say, here's what I'm going to say in relation to that. I do feel like we're going to have either a special teams touchdown or a interception for a touchdown or a fumble recovery for a touchdown in this game. One of those 3. I don't know where it's going to be. All right, this is your last one, and this was an addition from last week as well. I want to know from you. How many penalties Auburn will have in this game and how many yards they will have to give up because of those penalties. I think we had very few in the first game and more in the second game. And unfortunately, some of those were not. Some of the calls were bad and some of the non-calls were bad. How many yards will we give up on how many penalties? How many yards on how many penalties? This is a request from a viewer last week, so we're trying it out. See if you guys like answering that one. There you go. A couple of you guys come in. Yeah, Corey, you're really late, man. Good to see you, though. 5 for 35, and we got 4. How many penalties and how many yards will we give up? Given the nature of what I hope and believe that we're going to take care of business against who we're supposed to, that being teams like this, step up from Alabama A&M, that we're going to be playing a lot more. I do think a majority of our penalties will come at the end of the game, and that will be 4 for 50 yards. 4 for 50 yards. 7 for 85. 3 for yeah, okay, so they got a whole breakdown of it there from 3-1-3. So not bad, not bad. All right. So we have come to that time of the night. The point where we have talked about the game, the stories around it. We looked at depth charts. We've looked at roster breakdowns a little bit. We've looked at their last game, our last game. We've looked at numbers and statistics. We've talked through scenarios on offense, defense, special teams. We have done it all. So you should now be at a place with your guess that you can come up with a more well-rounded score prediction. Drop them now. This is your official E2C Network score prediction. Drop it now. Let's hear what you have to say. Who wins? Who loses? How do you feel? Where does it fall? Somewhere in the category of what happened in the first game versus the second game. It's definitely going to be somewhere in the middle of that because two very major extremes. But hopefully most of you believe that Auburn will win and see what happens from that point. We've got a few coming in already. Dalton says at 38-24, Auburn makes it look better than it was in the second half. So you're saying it's a very dicey, very angry fan base in the first half. 30-21, 38-13. I'm assuming most of you are saying Auburn, but yes, do clarify that in your answers. 3-1-3 is definitely seems to be the most positive about it. Here's what I'm going to say. I think, and I don't think your score necessarily has to be what you predicted on like the touchdowns receiving and passing wise. It would make sense if it was, but we're talking through these things and maybe you realize something. I was a little bit too low or high on something. I did say 3 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns, and I predicted another touchdown in the form of special teams or defense, and then 2 field goals. So doing that quick math in my head would make that 6 touchdowns for 42 points and then 6 other points from field goals. So that would be 48. I do think that's a bit high for what I feel like, but matches 3-1-3 very well. I'm going to say Auburn scores 38. It's not that big of a drop, but 38. New Mexico scores 20. 38-20. Auburn wins, 18-point victory. So that does fall within the under, which I did see, that we talked about a little bit earlier. So 38-20, Auburn wins at homecoming. It is not impressive. It is not a amazing win, but it gets the job done and hopefully satisfies the Auburn fan base a little bit. So, all right, we've got a few minutes left. I usually get out of here by 9, but if you've got comments, questions, topics that you'd like for me to address here in our Q&A portion of the show, do so. Like to leave room for that at the end of most of these type of things when there's other agenda. So let's jump into it. We'll jump into that into a second. Let me give you reminders about what's coming up next here at E2C Network. Keep in mind, it's going to be a busy weekend. If the weather cooperates, we'll be on campus tomorrow. Homecoming parade at 6 p.m. We are going to try to live stream that for you, dependent upon the connection, dependent upon the weather. If it's not, our goal is to be recording it in a different format so we can put it up online later. But be looking on here on YouTube if you want to watch Homecoming Parade live. Usually a good time. So I'd love for you to join in with us on that one. Tiger Walk live, Auburn for New Mexico. That'll be obviously 2 hours before kickoff. So 4:30. Join us for that. We're always going to have our post-game show, too. It'll be a late one. Saddle up, because if we win, that means Kyle's got to go to Toomer's Corner and capture all the stuff from there. So if it is later than the time that we set, because it's just a guess, don't be shocked. But if it is a little bit earlier, don't be shocked as well. This is why it's a great idea to be subscribed so you don't miss out for when it actually does go live. It's very hard to predict that stream. Don't miss our Sunday show at 9 Eastern time. Austin and myself will be breaking down homecoming weekend action. And it looks like we're going to be talking about schedules again, but baseball and softball, SEC schedules, as well as all the other Auburn related news, sports, family, culture, otherwise, that are out there. And don't forget, we'll be back again next Wednesday night with Auburn Family Night, our live call-in show. You've got the stuff. Smash the like button and make sure, that you are following, subscribing, whatever it is. Thank you for the kind words, David. All right, let's see where we're at here. Fun prediction. Golden Eagle or Bald Eagle makes the flight. Or do they not have a flight in rainy weather? I would imagine it'd have more to do with wind, because remember, birds are, well, I guess some people wouldn't know this. I'm a bird person, used to work with birds. Their feathers, most birds' feathers are very waterproof, if not all of them. So while they avoid flying unnecessarily in conditions like that, it'd be more about wind, I think, than rain. If it's downpour, it's not going to happen, but hopefully that's not the thing right there. New Mexico has a cool mascot. I don't know that I've ever seen their mascot, but wolves usually look pretty cool. But I'll say they've flown Indy the last 2 times. Bald eagles are notorious for being weird, so let's not do it in the weird weather. So there you go. If the post-game show is not around 11 Central, then I won't be there. I have to work till, well, I can't guarantee what time it starts. It's really just dependent upon me and what else I've got to get done and getting set up and all that kind of thing. I did some investigating about, some of y'all saw this in the Conquer Club. If you were in at the Eagle tier, I think I shared it in there. Yeah, a test I did this weekend of something. I realized we're not to the where we need to be to pull off something like that. But still thinking about it. I do not know when. If the game, Stan's saying 9:30, it's not that simple, Stan, because if we win, I don't have to, but I do it because we share all the stuff we can. Timmer's Corner, get pictures, all that stuff. I usually wait for Aubie to arrive because people love to see him there celebrating. So usually by the time that I get done with what I need to do after a win, we're talking, an hour and a half, usually at the latest, when that all happens. So all good. Let's just want to give you some clarifier why it's not 30 minutes after. And I don't even know that I could make it out of the stadium and be set up in 30 minutes after the show, or 30 minutes after the game for the show. Now, when we do away games, we'll do it right after, right? So there's that. All right, you guys asked a couple of questions, and you can keep some more coming if you'd like. We still got a few more minutes for it. I took the time to see if we didn't address anything. What's the update on the O-line? That was Rodney, because he's under the other one. I don't know what update he was looking for. He's gone now. Other than that, Xavier Miller, I believe, was injured last week. Didn't sound like it was too bad, but similar to this, was it Perry Thompson or Cam Coleman? I believe it's Cam Coleman, unless I didn't hear about Perry Thompson's injury. I think it's Cam Coleman. I don't know that there's any major updates there. Neil asked a little bit earlier, did I see the Paul Feinbaum statement about how he thinks Hugh Freeze doesn't seem to be wanting to coach? Again, Neil, you are smart enough to know that Paul Feinbaum just loves to be inflammatory because it gets clicks and it gets hits. And most media people they know how to press Auburn fans' buttons. And even when they're in agreement with a lot of the vocal majority right now, right? Like they're going to pile on. It's not to get political about this, but we were having a conversation at dinner tonight about, notice that, this isn't about politics, when that the two planes on the runway kind of hit each other, the back ends of each other at Hartsfield airport here in Atlanta, all you could see all night now was we went and investigated this and this and this and this and found this and this happened. You wouldn't have even known these things. These things happen more often than people are aware of, but it's just when it bleeds, it leads. So that's my answer to Paul. Anything Paul Feinbaum says, he's an inflammatory guy. He needs that for clicks and views, and that hey, it's worked for him. You know, more power to you. But I don't really care what Paul Feinbaum has to say about anything. He gave Harvey Updike his launching point, and I know he reprimanded him, but that'll never be forgotten. He gives people like Harvey Updike his launching point. Bubba says, "Who starts at quarterback? Thorne. We win by 10. Baby Goat. We win by 35." That's just stupid. That's just stupid. Not until there's proof in the air about that. But since he asked it, I was going to bring it up there. To act like what I hate for Hank Brown is all of this. I'm going to use this term that I hate everybody's using, this aura that's around him, or what. I don't even know if I use that term right. It's so overused. Around him being the baby goat and all that stuff, simply because there's so much hate for Peyton Thorne. And that started in the offseason. You're putting way too much pressure on the kid, because if he does go in there and he doesn't get the job done, people probably won't turn him in like they did Peyton Thorne, but just give the kid a chance to go out there and prove that he can do those things before we start lumping those things on there. PT will start. Have a great game, and that is a bad thing. Stan, you and I are going to have some issues, my friend, because if you think that's a bad thing, then you and I are not going to agree on much other things. That is the most logical fact. I know what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but to degrade someone having a bad game, or excuse me, a good game in any way is that's just not a good take. I'm sorry. Love you, buddy. That's just a very, very poor take. All right. Anything else? Anything else? You guys got any other comments, questions? We're a little bit over an hour. Folks, let me just kind of addressing that last topic point on that. Your opinions on Peyton Thorne, if you're part of that crowd, have been heard. Trust me. No one is neglecting in knowing that that's not a way to say that. No one is unsure that there is scrutiny abounding around him. No one is unaware that he has a lot that he needs to step up and do that and do this week and for the rest of the season. Drop it. My encouragement to you is that if you are a part of this audience and you are a regular member here, that to think beyond the usual minutia of the mindless masses and actually embody what you do, what you say you believe in the Auburn Creed. And that doesn't mean that you can't have criticism. That doesn't mean that you can't point out, hey, this ain't working. But when we're calling for, when we're actively pursuing, we're actually participating, even if it's slightly in jest, it reflects poorly upon us as the Auburn family, reflects poorly upon every aspect of the Auburn experience. And you can not like me for saying that and pointing that out all you want, but it's the truth. And we definitely need to support our people that put on the orange and blue, even if you don't like them. Take it from someone who used to have that mentality and has learned from that. But please do support whoever goes out there. If you are in the stands and you boo, I will find you and I will make sure that you get embarrassed for such behavior. Anyway, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us, being part of our little family within the Auburn family. And we will be back with you very shortly. Lots hopefully coming from campus this weekend for homecoming. You guys continue to be the best little family within the Auburn family, whether we agree or we disagree. Till next time, War Eagle.